You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
It's Wednesday night, time for the Paranormal Experience radio show with host Kat Hobson. Kick back, relax, and get ready to learn. Welcome to the show. Now, here's Kat.
Good evening and welcome to Paranormal Experience Radio here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I am Kat Hobson. I'm your host for this show, and I have to tell you that I am really looking forward to my conversation tonight. I have Butch Witkowski joining me, and I have had the opportunity to get additional information and attend a press conference for the Project Blue Book show that's coming out on the History Channel. I had forgotten how compelling the evidence of that study was. The star of or one of the leads in the show, Michael Malarkey, was discussing how studying the Project Blue Book kind of led him into his belief that, you know what, this is really true. It's the one instance where the government actually had to say, yep, we cleared about 20-something hundred cases, but there's this aggravating little almost 700 that, well, heck, we don't know. They're probably ETs. So that was interesting to hear somebody in that position say that. I am welcoming tonight Butch Witkowski. As I said, he is absolutely a go-to person on this topic. I know that when normally he joins me, we discuss cryptids because I'm fascinated by them. He knows almost everything there is to know so far about them. So he appeases me and discusses that. When this is actually, Butch, your wheelhouse, you are so involved with the UFO phenomenon that you've created all kinds of history with your research. I'm so glad you're here.
I'm very glad to be with you again. It's been a long time since we talked.
Well, certainly about this. And, you know, you set out to do this, and you actually are one of the most serious researchers I know. You were so involved with MUFON at one point. Mm-hmm. You were a state director. You were a STAR team investigator. Mm-hmm. You were, I just had the biggest brain poot. What was
Chief investigator?
Chief investigator, moved to STAR team, and then became a section director.
Uh-huh.
And that had to be great training.
It gave me the opportunity to meet a lot of people that I probably wouldn't have normally met offhand, and develop some relationships which carry on till today. And I just wanted to go in a kind of a different direction than MUFON was taking. And I have a lot of great people I work with. They're all seasoned investigators. They all been doing it a long time. Some of them longer than I have, and I've been at it 29 years. So it works out real well, both for getting individual reports where you kind of get hung up on something, you know, maybe it's a photograph or maybe it's a statement or a location somewhere in the country where you might think that, you know, I've heard that before, or, you know, I can't find any background research. And, you know, I could call out to California or send an email out to an investigator in California and say, did you ever hear of anything like this or anything like that? And I'll get feedback. And feedback's very important. And swapping information is very important in the community. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen all that much. Sharing.
I found that to be true. I know that people in the spiritual side of paranormal absolutely are guarded with how much information they're willing to share with anyone. And is that true with ufology as well?
Yeah, it's how that works out is like almost like the paranormal field. Like, well, we get more reports than you get, or you're working in our territory, or you got a report that should have come to us, or it's nonsense. It's just total nonsense. Waste of time, effort, energy. A lot of drama. Same amount of drama that you get in the paranormal field or the crypto field. That's in the ufology field too. And it's sad, but we stay away from the drama. It has no place with our investigations. If I get something that, we're not going to, it's too far away, or we're not going to be able to handle it or get into it because maybe it's in Canada or it's out of the country, I'll call somebody there. I'll give them all the information, let them handle it. And UFO sightings, in the last year and a half have gone sky high. I mean, we're really getting a lot of reports. And that seems to be kind of a norm. It's like every 2 years or so, abductions will be up, maybe 8-10%, and you won't get a whole lot of UFOs, but you'll get some cryptid stuff. And then the following maybe 6 months after that, the cryptid stuff will pick up a lot, and UFO will drop. It's up and down all the time. And, we have a couple people, matter of fact, one researcher, he's a scientist, he lives in Puerto Rico. He's been following reports as opposed to weather all over the country. And to see if there's any type of a connection where, do you see, and I'm just saying this because I don't know what his research is other than what he sends me is, so are there more UFO sightings and reports in cold, clear weather, or are they more in the summer? Same thing with abductions. What's the weather situation when they take place? But, look, the best time to see UFOs is in the winter, right now, as a matter of fact, October, November, December, January, February, when it's cold, skies are clear, you got visibility forever. True. And that's, I recently moved into a new home about 25, 30 miles from where I used to live, and I have clear sky all around me, where the old home I didn't have that because I was in a townhouse, so there was a lot of blockage. Yes. But here I have no light pollution. And since I'm here, and we moved here in let's see, we bought the place. We bought the house in March. We moved in April, and I've had 3 sightings right here, right off my front porch.
Oh my gosh!
And I had one of my researchers was with me, came down to help, paint and do this and do that around here, because of course, no matter what the house was painted, the wife was going to change the color anyway. So
we would never do that. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, right. He was sitting out back, and I went in and got some coffee, and I came out, and he went like, "I just don't believe this." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he was sitting out in the middle of the yard in a chair looking up. I said, "Oh, you're doing a star watch?" He says, "This is unbelievable." I said, "Why? What's up?" He said, "The most I've ever seen of slow walkers, satellites," he said, "has been maybe 2 or 3 at a time." He said, "I'm on number 12 right now." He said, "Your view here is unbelievable." And I went like, 12? He went, "Yeah." So I sat aside of him.
So cool.
I sat aside of him, and we actually got up to 15. And that's very unusual. Fast walkers or, valid UFO sighting, they haven't changed. They're still the same. We get reports on, not a lot, maybe 2 years ago on triangles, not so much now. Now we're back to the balls of light, streaking, different types of size craft, rectangles, and some orb type, some tubes. But the tubes, I'm thinking, when you're really looking at one of those through a lens, camera lens or binoculars, it might not be a tube. It just may be the altitude, the attitude that the craft is taking. It could be, banked a little bit to the left or to the right, so therefore you would be looking at a cigar shape. But actually, if you were looking at it head on, it would be a saucer shape. We have reports north of where I live now of 2 or 3 vehicles being seen in the sky, bright orange mostly, just going along, doing their own little thing, and then poof, you got 6. And then poof, you got 9. And then the main one, which kind of leads the pack, drops to the ground, or you think it drops to the ground, and it's so far away, it's probably in another world. But those sightings, and especially in that particular area, and it's a very rural area up in the Allentown, Bethlehem area, which are large cities, but there is so many reports up there. Now, there are military bases up there. So we don't know about what type of craft exactly they are. Some of the photographs we've gotten, they pretty much all look like they are orbs of some type. They are very large because when you start looking at them through a photographic program, and you're now looking at something that is a little dot in the sky, but when you're blowing it up, this thing is huge. And we're seeing a lot of those right now in Texas also.
I've been hearing about the ones in Texas. Yes. Yep,
around the Panhandle, they are got a lot going down there. The Northeast and down toward the South. Florida and South Carolina, North Carolina, in that area along the coast used to be really hot years ago. There's very few sightings coming out of there anymore. But now, when you start moving inland, like Georgia, Alabama, Missouri, Texas, the reports start picking up. It just seems like the stuff along the coast, which at one point, I'm going to say probably 10, 12 years ago, you just got a horrendous amount of reports from the coastline. And that went from all the way up in Maine, all the way down to the Keys. And there's not that many at all anymore. I mean, you could probably count them on one hand. They have... like even here in Pennsylvania, a lot of our sightings come out of the east and the north. Very few west and south.
So
like
they
toward
actually
Ohio.
are transiting from the northeast toward Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like when you get out to like western Pennsylvania and eastern Ohio and West Virginia, very few sightings. And at one time, it was just the opposite, where they got a lot of sightings. And we had, we had our maybe 30 reports or so a month, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more. But you have all this stuff now that it's all over the country. It's all over the world, as a matter of fact. Reports coming from overseas are there's just a ton of them. And, you have so many reports, and now you got this. There seems to be another interest now with this Project Blue Book show coming up, right?
A ton of interest.
Oh yeah. Well, people don't realize that. Everybody yells about disclosure. They want disclosure.
Exactly.
Project Blue Book in 1969, when it closed down, already gave us disclosure, because there are 765, I believe, reports that are classified in Project Blue Book as unknown.
Yes.
One of them is here in Pennsylvania, the Presque Isle case in Erie. So you have the Erie case, which is still logged in Project Blue Book as an unknown. And that was the Air Force was on the scene. I mean, that whole story of Presque Isle, I mean, if there's a ufologist or a UFO person on the show tonight that really wants to read a report, read up on Presque Isle. It is phenomenal.